Hello, Matt Micheletti here, and today I will be analyzing the film Do the Right Thing. The film itself has a major theme running through it of race relations. Um, Spike Lee was inspired to create this film by an incident that happened in New York City, where a couple young black teens were chased out of a pizzeria by a group of white teens along Howard Beach. And so that was just kind of the influencing inspiration behind Spike Lee's desire to create this film. Unfortunately, the film was shunned by a good portion of Hollywood's elite group. Their kind of ruling class, as you'd say. But it was praised by many others in the business, like Roger Ebert, the American Film Institute. Gained a few small nominations in the Oscars and Golden Globes, but every other review and rating organization had nominated this film or given it the actual win for awards across the board. So it's kind of odd that it was shunned at the Oscars and Golden Globes. The film is set in a black neighborhood in New York during the late 80s, early 90s era. Characters are mostly centered around high school kids during their summer break, and one in particular that works as a pizza delivery gentleman, whose name happens to be Mookie, the main character in the movie. There is an Italian pizza owner, or a pizzeria owner. His name is Sal, and he's got two sons that work for him in the business, Pino, the older son, and Vito, his younger son. Mookie also works for the pizzeria, obviously mentioned earlier, as the pizza delivery gentleman. Now, Sal and his two sons actually do not live in the neighborhood. They live in a adjacent neighborhood that is filled with, more Italians and whatnot. But there are obvious livable relations between the pizzeria, its owners, and the community, just because it's been open for so many years there and seems to be kind of a cornerstone of that community. Now, also right across the street, there is a Korean grocery store owner, just to add to the mix there. And there's kind of a general consensus on how you feel that the community views the Korean family and their grocery store through the views of these three older gentlemen that are kind of portrayed along kind of an alleyway or something, sitting in their little roll-out chairs. Those three gentlemen are ML, Coconut Sid, and Sweet Dick Willie. Basically, one is basically inclusive of the Koreans, one is exclusive of the Koreans, and the other could kind of really care less. So it just kind of shows a nice little cross-section of, the acceptance of different cultures. But you can see that this is kind of creating that line of tension already in the story between all these different races. So Spike Lee utilizes the character Mookie as kind of an intermediary between all these races. He pretty much connects the thread throughout the entire film. He associates well with all the other cultures, but also plays an anti-hero. So obviously he's black and gets along well with that community, but he works with the Italians. He's a little bit lazy in his efforts there, but they seem to not care too much. He's dating a Puerto Rican Tina, who also has a son of his named Hector, but throughout the film, he's basically a deadbeat dad. So you kind of sit back and wonder, okay, is he really the hero? Because there's a lot that he does that's pretty wrong. Then you've got the characters of Sal, Pino, and Vito. Sal's portrayed as a really good man, truly cares about the community he serves, but at the same time, he's stubborn about the rules in his pizzeria. And there is a little bit of old school hostility between the race relations there. He does have a little bit of a temper. His older son, Pino, is basically a full-on bigot. Prefers to be in the Italian neighborhood, has racist comments and things like that for the black folks, so not exactly your role model. The younger son, Vito, is more the role model. He's a lot more like his father, but without the temper. So kind of one to, look up to. He does befriend Mookie, and they are friends throughout the movie. And he's not afraid to venture out in the community. So he doesn't have that same fear that his older brother does of the black community. And then you've got the two characters from the community, Buggin' Out and Radio Raheem. They're friends of Mookie's, locals of the pizzeria. And so, they're basically just in the community doing their normal thing, just like all the other kids. However, these two gentlemen happen to have a gripe or reason for petitioning the pizzeria. Buggin' Out more or less wants black people included on Sal's picture wall of fame, where Sal basically explains that these are all famous Italian Americans who have made it big, and Buggin' Out doesn't exactly buy that and says, no, we want black people up there as well. Unfortunately, Sal's poorly delivered explanation of this more or less tells Buggin' Out that, find me a famous Italian American who happens to be black and I'll put him up there. But that is a very nice way of delivering Sal's explanation there. Radio Raheem, he's an interesting character. All he wants to do is play his music loud. That's really all he's about. He's a bit of a bully in the community with that. There's a point in the movie where they show him more or less walking up to the Puerto Rican group and just standing there with his boombox, and then they play the who can get the louder music going, in which he wins because he's got this really nice boombox, and they end up turning their music off, and he walks away as the winner. So it's kind of interesting what he does in the community with his musical approach and just kind of bullying people around. Unfortunately, he brings that same radio into the pizzeria, where Sal does not appreciate the loud music. Sal couldn't even hear him to take his order. That's how ridiculously loud it was. But Radio Raheem only listens to it loudly, and instead of turning it down, he straight up just turns it off. Which I thought was rather interesting. So he's kind of an all-or-nothing character, which is a great character used in a movie. A little unrealistic, but yeah, that's kind of how that whole piece got started with Radio Raheem's negative views on the pizzeria and just, hey, I can outblast anybody else in the community, but you're not even playing music and you won't let me play mine. So that's kind of tough for Radio Raheem to take. The highlighted characters that we've just been talking about, created by Spike Lee, are really brilliantly representative of the current atmosphere of the time. America is a mixed bag of personal values and moral compasses, not much different from today. And other than the fact that they have got a lot brighter clothing back then. But it's very similar today. So the message that's delivered in this movie still corresponds to today's youth. One thing that I really enjoyed about this film was the cinematography use. Majority of the film is during the day, where it is bright and sunny, everyone's in good spirits, mixed races getting along as if they're family almost. There's a scene that really kind of spells out that family feel when Sal sits his older son Pino down to try and explain to him the benefits of having their pizzeria here in the black and Puerto Rican communities, and how he's seen the kids grow up on his pizza, and he takes a huge amount of pride in that, knowing that he's helped to create the positive youths that they are to this day. While at the same time, he also knocks down Pino's friends for being very derogatory and racist in their outlook towards other people. So he's trying to, help direct his son towards a better understanding of life. Not exactly successful, but great attempt. And then the nighttime falls. So this is where things start to get a little bit darker, not just visually, but in the theme of the movie as well. So you've got this alley or side alley type of meetup between Bugging Out and Radio Raheem, where they decide to, okay, full on boycott and picket type of deal, the pizzeria. And unfortunately, that's the point where aggression leads to violence, leads to death, leads to destruction. It's a bad scenario that happens once dusk hits. And so their protest led to, or there as in Bugging Out and Radio Raheem, their protest of the pizzeria basically led to the violence of Sal and his bat against the radio, destroying that, which led to the fight between Radio Raheem and Sal, which led to the police arriving and choking out Radio Raheem to the point of his death, which then led to the riot by the community and the destruction of the pizzeria. So obviously nighttime was the worst case scenario of everything going on. It got to the point where even Sal and his two sons, you get the feeling that their life is in danger had Mookie not done what he did and turned everybody's attention towards the destruction of the pizzeria rather than people. But the interesting part was at the end, Spike Lee brings out Dawn. And obviously with the start of a new day comes a new life. And so Spike literally uses Dawn as the start of his new day. Sal and Mookie make peace, even though Mookie basically turned on Sal. Sal realizes that it was the best case scenario, at least for what was going on. And Mookie also seems to move in a direction of taking his parental fathership role more seriously. So getting away from the deadbeat dad approach and trying to be there for his kid and Tina. It's kind of a Disney ending almost, if you will. But the social statement that Spike Lee, I believe, makes here is that, the light is filled with acceptance, tolerance, and love for other people and cultures. The night's filled with anger, slurs, racism, violence, death, and destruction. The key to true equality and happiness in life is through honest and peaceful dialogue, not violence and oppression. Lee hits this point hard when Mookie and Pino had their side talk about Pino's views on black people, and then again with the two statements from Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X at the end of the film to help reinforce his theory. And that is my analysis of Do the Right Thing. Thank you.